broadcasted live from Hollywood, California. With me, you know him as the czar of the virtual background, the one and only Pro GK Academy, Omar Zeenni. No 99 New Jersey World Cup legend, Saskia Weber, today on the show, but that's okay, because what we decided to do is just said, if Saskia can't make the show, we have to call another New Jersey legend to come onto the show. And that's what we did right now, guys. Honestly, this is a huge treat for us, guys. New England Revolution, US men's national team goalkeeper. And from what I've heard from Aaron West and Yael, pickup ball legend, Matt Turner.
Wow, that's quite the honor, especially that last bit there. But we won't call myself a New Jersey legend just yet. Some of those goalkeepers that have, made their way through the ranks with the U.S. men's and women's national teams are pretty special. So I still have a long way to go to consider myself a legend. But yeah, it's great. Thanks for having me on the show.
For sure, man. I mean, honestly, one of those things is that it's crazy. We always talk about it. And obviously, Saskia being from Jersey and playing for the national team and all that sort of stuff, she's got obviously a bias towards Jersey goalkeepers, but also the U.S. has a bias towards Jersey goalkeepers. I mean, just the amount of goalkeepers that have come through New Jersey, and it's hilarious to me when you say you wouldn't put yourself in that legend category. Like if you were from any other state, you'd be like, oh yeah, I'm definitely probably a legend by now. But like with New Jersey, you literally have like the Premier League for the last 20 years, on your roster as well too. So, I appreciate you being so humble, man. But honestly, man, I mean, dude, getting that cap against Trinidad, was awesome, man. Obviously, we're going to get into the topic and everything like that, but we just want to give you that shout out. I know Omar was big time on it on social media. So.
For sure. No, I think,
thank you.
I mean, your story's crazy. I think that's the part that I mean, once we intro everything and get us going, but definitely your story is one of those ones that, we see in movies like Rudy, for example, or like the one with Mark Wahlberg, playing for the Philadelphia Eagles. And then you see him, like his ascent, but you've actually not only ascended, but you've maintained, which to anybody listening, young kids out there, Matt, can you just kind of tell us a little bit of your background real quick and kind of just, I mean, it's been crazy. I don't know how you stuck through it the whole way through. I didn't have the stones to do that. So how have you been able to kind of keep your head through the whole thing?
Omar gave it a year in USL, and he was like, you know what, this is hard. I'm good.
Yeah, I'm going to retire. I'm done.
Well, you've pivoted into quite a good little niche for yourself there. Right. So that's a good thing that you stayed involved in the game. Yeah. But for me, if you don't really know much about me, just a Jersey kid, 3-sport athlete. Growing up, football, basketball, baseball. My mom was a softball coach. Both my older sisters did softball and soccer. And being the youngest, I always tagged along to, their soccer practices. So it sort of popped me in goal here and there, just anything to keep me active on, my dad was coaching my sisters. So he would be like, instead of having to keep an eye on the field and me on the side of the field, he'd be like, hey, just get in goal. So that was kind of like my first introduction to being a goalkeeper, and I didn't even think anything of it. I just liked being involved with the older girls, and then fast forward to my freshman year of high school. I went to a high school where football and baseball are huge sports, same with basketball, but I was 5'4", 105 pounds, so football wasn't really my calling at that time. And I decided that I knew enough about soccer from, messing around over the years that I was going to try out for the team. And I tried out to be a field player the first day. It didn't really go so well for me. And so when I went back day 2, I hopped in net and I made the team as a goalkeeper. And I played as a freshman on the freshman team, JV as a sophomore. And then my junior year, I made varsity, played my varsity season in the fall, and then joined my first club team that winter. And then I started training year-round soccer, and I got my Division I offer to Fairfield, went to Fairfield, didn't play until my junior year. Well, had a few bumps along the way, but started playing my junior year for real. And after that, the Revs were the only professional team come knocking at my door, and they invited me on a preseason trial. Got signed by the Revs, and from there I was able to turn a 4-year contract into now this is my 6th season. So pretty crazy stuff, just like tons of like ups and downs along the way as well, and I'm sure there'll be many more as well.
Dude, honestly, like no, go ahead, Omar.
No, I shared this tweet. I was on Twitter following the game, and especially against Trinidad. If you guys didn't watch the game, there was a penalty called, and I remember thinking, I was like, damn, like knowing your trajectory and kind of knowing your story, I was just like, man, they'd be so sick if Matt makes a save. I'm like, what an introduction, like just keeping the shutout. Like, I mean, how dope would this be? You make the save, so I go on Twitter just to kind of see what people are saying, and again, I don't have like the linear understanding of your actual progression, but I'm going to read the tweet that I tweeted or I reposted on Instagram. It says Matt Turner earned a New England Revolution contract after a trial in 2016, spent 2016 and 2017 on loan, and then entered in as a third choice goalkeeper in camp in 2018. You won the job. And it says he's now starting in a friendly for the U.S. men's national team and one of the consensus top goalkeepers in the MLS. And again, it's a remarkable trajectory, remarkable development. But Matt, for you, like not joining a club until your junior year of high school, do you feel like you just had, without having to worry about technique and without having to really worry about like the X's and O's about goalkeeping, you were able just to have fun? And then in that process of having fun, you kind of just found the game and you kind of became just a natural feel for it versus having like technique drilled into you every day.
100,000%. And I don't think that this is the one way to do it. For me, this was the perfect storm of how to do it because of who I am as a person. I am grossly competitive. I was the kid that came with the dirtiest baseball uniform. I came home with bruised knees and cuts after basketball games, floor burn, all the same. I just always laid my body on the line. So it's funny. I actually was on a soccer team when I was like in 5th grade, and all I wanted to do was play goalkeeper. They wouldn't play me in goal, so I quit. Oh, I played 1 season. That was it. I gave it up. And I don't know why I had this like internal desire to be in goal, but they were like, yeah, nah, winger that season. I had to run so much, and I just didn't really love it. And so there's something to be said for doing things that you love. And I just started, getting passionate about soccer over the years. And then when I got to college is when I started learning a lot more about the responsibility of what it means to be a goalkeeper. And I didn't learn that from a coach when I was 7 or 8. I didn't learn it from my parents. I learned it from one of my peers. His name was Michael O'Keefe. He was the senior when I was a freshman at Fairfield. And he started telling me all these things about, hey, man, like this is what it means to be a goalkeeper. This is the responsibility. And almost my, like, what did they say? I was so naive that it helped me in a way because I had been so ignorant over the years about the pressures that come with the position. And I think when I first started in MLS, I'm talking 2018, I put so much pressure on myself because of that. And I wasn't myself the whole time, So I think over 2019 and 2020 with Kevin Hitchcock as my goalkeeper coach, he's helped me to allow me to be myself. And that's been really useful for me.
Yeah. I mean, dude, honestly, I think that's a really cool thing to honestly, what you were just saying right there, because I think one of the problems right now, and then honestly, Matt, I think one of the reasons that you were able to be so successful and have this trajectory is I think you found one of the Infinity Stones from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. And you just changed reality, dude, because this story literally, like Omar, like even when Omar was like saying it, like these things don't happen. But I think the fact that you weren't so immersed in and having that type of pressure on yourself because you had come through the youth national team program and gone through residency and then gone to a big school and been starting since you were a freshman and you were expected to be Generation Adidas and all that sort of stuff, because they weren't those expectations on you. You were just like, whatever happens, man. I'm just going to give it my best shot, And I think a lot more kids need to hear that, For
sure. And I'll tell you what, I've come into contact with a lot of youth national, like guys that have gone through the youth national team systems over the years. It's funny. I feel like in their techniques, I see so many similarities where like for me, I've sort of like learn as you go, like sort of how can you make the save? Does this work? If it works, whatever. And that's the freedom that I've been allowed with in my current, coaching situation. They don't really care exactly how it gets kept out of the net as so long as it's kept out of the net. And that's allowed me to be free and be creative and use all of my background of playing different sports to be a little more innovative. I feel like the way I move around the goal, I look at other people, you know, and I don't really see anybody as similar to the way I move. It's interesting, you know, like it is. I've definitely charted my own path, I feel like.
You know, but the thing that's really fascinating about this is, and obviously shout out to Kevin and Yuta, and then obviously Aaron Hyde with the men's national team and stuff like that, because they do give you that freedom, and they do allow you to, I don't want to say just, you know, Omar, you've talked about this a lot, experiment, and then find what's comfortable to you. You know, you used to, Omar, obviously when you were starting out as a young coach, you know, you were very much about, got to do it this way. And then obviously as you progressed in your career as you coach and you come across people like a Matt Turner, you go, hey man, that's working for him. Let him keep being him.
Yeah. And I mean, there's constant reminders. I mean, you see people that we hold on a pedestal, for example, like in one of my heroes that I love, Oliver Kahn and Peter Schmeichel. And, you know, you kind of have this perception of who they are because of their name, and it kind of supersedes any idea, kind of block out, hey, technique has never been a big deal. It's Oliver Kahn. Don't worry about it. And then as you get older, as I've gotten older now as a coach, I'm watching him like angle shots, and the guy's literally hugging his post. And I'm like, well, I wouldn't teach my kid to do that. But if Oliver Kahn does it, there's got to be something to be said about, if it works for you and you feel like it makes you a better goalkeeper, go for it. So I flipping it into a coach's perspective, I'm like, look, I can, you know, teach you the aesthetic of how certain techniques should look. But at the end of the day, I'd much rather have a goalkeeper to be like, coach, I do it my way. I do it this way, and it's working for me. That's it. So for me, at least, I like the curiosity of goalkeepers, but also at the same time too, as coaches, we need to allow that curiosity to grow. And as it grows, you'll get people like Peter Schmeichel, you get people like Oliver Kahn who do things their way and they're extremely successful. And then that's people all the time. They have like the revisionist history of like, I told you that technique was going to work. When in reality, they were probably the same coaches like myself at the beginning to be like, you can't do that. No, it's not how it's done.
Right.
Oh.
I think I see that a lot with nowadays, like the blocking technique. And I feel like now you look around and everybody you see is like going into this blocking shape rather than, and it takes out that element of the game where it's like, hey, maybe if I like kept my feet a little bit longer, I could have reacted and made a save, or I could have done something a little bit differently. I think last year I got into a little bit of a habit. There was probably 2 or 3 goals within like 4 or 5 games where I ended up like doing a sort of like a sliding split on like a one-on-one situation, whereas that's my bread and butter. I wasn't staying on my feet. I wasn't trying to make saves, and I don't even know where it came from. I feel like I'd seen it so many times, and it's almost, I felt like after those goals, like I felt like I was part of this cookie cutter. I was like, oh man, that's not me, you know? And I feel like I see so many people, they use that as like, okay, well, I did everything I could, but like you're not thinking critically. You're using this blocking shape as almost a cop out in a way.
Yeah.
Dude.
No, I think,
yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No,
Omar.
Mike, just to that point though, Matt, I 100% agree. And I again, if you probably watch some footage of me, and I'm sure if somebody has footage, they could probably say, hey man, you did the block save this one time and you detest it and you say all these negative things about it. But I'm like, I honestly, I would say that it came naturally. It wasn't one of those things that was like drilled into me. And this is okay, when it's 4 yards away, I'm going to do it no matter what. Like, again, we talked about it last podcast about De Gea. After a while, he was so successful with, defaulting to that knee save or those kick saves that strikers became more intelligent and watched film on him, and they were actually able to beat him between the legs or just slightly 1 or 2 yards in those pockets that he left open. So after a while, you get exposed. But for me, it was just like, okay, stay on my feet as long as I can, and then give myself the best chance to make a save a variety of ways, with my hands, with my feet. But then again, there are times where I'm like, okay, this guy has literally nowhere to go. I'm just going to drop both my knees or drop one knee and make myself as big as possible. So I think it should come as more of an instinctual thing. And obviously you should know like the mechanics and like how to stretch your body a certain way. But at the end of the day, it's more of just put that in your reserve. You shouldn't train it all the time because again, it becomes an automatic thing. And I wouldn't even blame the goalkeepers at this point. I wouldn't say, hey, Matt, that's your fault, or hey, Mike, that's your fault. It would be like, who's teaching you? And I think there was a quote that I listened to recently. It was like, as a coach, you're either teaching it or you're letting it happen. So I think one of
Right.
those two things where I'm just like, damn, okay, that makes a lot of sense. And as coaches, we need to obviously, ask the question, ask that leading question to be like, okay, why are you doing this? And if they give you, hey, this is how I'm taught, this is where I feel most comfortable, I'm like, okay, as long as you understand why and not, hey, my coach told me to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's another good thing is ensuring that, there's a reason for what you're doing, you're trying to do something. And at the same time, a lot of success as a goalkeeper can be found not trying to do too much, not chasing the game, not making situations too complicated for yourself, doing your best to find the strength in your game. So for me, my strength is shot stopping, hanging back. I'm not going to go into crowds of bodies and start punching balls out 40 yards. I'm going to hang back. I'm going to make the saves. That's my style. It's always been my style, and I like to try to stay true to that.
Yeah. Dude, Matt, you just brought up a really good point right there. And honestly, like in regards to like when we're talking about youth players and stuff like that, I think like one of the biggest issues, and I don't know if you've noticed it at the youth level, maybe even growing up or whatever, is that a lot of times coaches give players certain activities to do, but they don't give the why from a game scenario standpoint. And because of that, these goalkeepers, they just become, for lack of a better term, defaulting to these activities, to these actions, because they don't know when to use them. And then obviously as we're kind of like moving into like the prep touch, like I think for instance, the prep touch is one of those where it's like a lot of times coaches just kind of go like, oh, you're on a pass back, handle this ball, but they don't understand the why. They don't understand how to manipulate the space, all those sorts of things. Did anybody hear me or
I'd say I think, no, I heard you. Yeah, I heard you.
Oh, okay.
I think that the big thing is maybe they don't have enough time to explain or go far enough. But I think like that follow-up is so important. So like, let's say we're working on, we'll call it the prep touch. So we're working on a prep touch, and then we work into a game where, all right, we're building out of the back. And then can you go back and watch film on practice and see, okay, what could I have done better with this touch to solve the pressure? Those types of things. But I think that also comes from a coach, because like maybe for me, I'll have solved pressure, but I didn't make the best choice, so how could, the coach, I rely a lot on my coach to sort of tell me those situations. So, for younger coaches, younger goalkeepers who are working with coaches, follow up on things like, don't just work the blocking shape, or don't just work the prep touch for the sake of working it. Now, when you get into a more game realistic scenario, are your goalkeepers, are you as a goalkeeper thinking about these little fixes and using them in that scenario? And I've found that when I do that, I get better that way. And I always knew, being late to the game, that I was going to have to learn a lot and use what I learned a lot. Like, I wasn't going to be able to just always rely on what was comfortable, because if I did that my whole career, I would have got left in the dust. So I think that that's really important, to be open to trying things in training. Goalkeepers, we hate failure because it usually results in a goal. But in practice, you need to have that chip on your shoulder to try things. And if something goes wrong, you say, all right, whatever, next one. It's just like this is what comes next. This is what's next. This is what's next, whether something goes good or something goes bad.
And you just brought up a really good point. And like Omar, obviously, like we've had tons of conversations about this in regards to just from a sports psychology standpoint, how many young goalkeepers are just afraid to fail. They're afraid to fail because they're not looking at the big picture. They're looking at just the moment in time. And I mean, you've even had the discussions in regards to how difficult it was for you, Omar, to handle failure at the MLS Academy level, and because you had not become comfortable with it, it really put a strain on you once you got to the higher levels.
Yeah. And I think, again, it's when you, like kind of what Matt said earlier, you kind of had this naivete growing up, and, for me, it was playing in these club teams. Our team was really, really good, right? So like we had some of the best players, and when we shifted over to the Galaxy Academy, a lot of my team was scouted, and they brought the guys from my team. So when I was with that team, there wasn't any expectation. It was just, hey, go out there, have fun. You guys are one of the best teams in California and in the country. Just go out there and play and win. So we had that like camaraderie within the group. And then once you kind of, you peel back the next layer of like, what's the next progression and the experience of being trying to go aspire to be a professional player, you go to the Galaxy Academy, and now there's a lot more expectations, a lot more sacrifice. I'm driving an hour to and from practice. So now that's like, putting a, pressure on the family. So then for me too, I'm competing against 2 or 3 guys who can easily be playing number 1 for any other MLS academy. So now again, there's more expectations. So then that like layer of you thinking it's just kind of playing for fun, it's kind of peeled back and you go, whoa, okay, this is getting a little bit too much. So I wish somebody could have prepared me better for that. But I think in those moments now, the way that I coach was because of those moments where I was like, there are players who just need to get that time, and sometimes too, chip in a little bit and expose them to those pressures and ask them questions to put them on the spot. And if they can't answer, just like we do in goalkeeping, we make a mistake and then we have to learn from that. So same thing, you get asked a question, you get asked to, be the starter on a weekend game on short notice, you got to be ready to play. So I think it was a good experience for me, but at the same time, as a coach now, I think it's really served me well to understand that goalkeeping is way more than just, hey, you're a good player, go out there and do you, but it's more of like, there's a psychology aspect to the game that we really need to layer into training.
Yeah. So let's get a little bit into this topic right now here. And I know we touched on it a little bit right now, but obviously, Matt, with your feathery touch, you're a wonderful person to have on for this topic right here. Is securing the prep touch. Matt, for maybe some of the parents out there who are listening to this and they're like, we have no idea what you're talking about, and please explain the why for us so that we can explain it to our kids there. What do we mean by the prep touch?
Prep touch is everything. Essentially, it is the touch that you take to prepare the ball for what you want to achieve with the ball, whether that's a clearance 60 yards, whether that's a pass to your center back, pass to your 6, just anything. But you can't achieve those smaller, successful passes without a good prep touch.
Yeah. And, and I think the thing is with the prep touch, and Omar, I think, this is one of the problems in regards to a lot of these sessions that we see online and stuff like that, is that action is not broken down in those videos. A lot of times it's focused on the next action in the distribution rather than that initial prep touch.
Yeah, and we talk about it a lot. Context means everything, especially on social media. And we talk about it with, that final action we're talking about last video, Mike, or the last podcast is, sometimes we train the final action. Sometimes we train the moments prior to the final action. Both are extremely important. So when it comes to distribution, like we talk about with, Steph Curry shooting threes, he can shoot as many threes as he wants to develop the technique stationary. But once you actually get to live movements and all that stuff, then you got to add the layer, especially for us now, of scanning. So when we get those stationary, kicking and working on technique, depth, putting it in behind, all that's great. But now to actually harness that and actually use that technique, your prep touch has to be what sets you up, like Matt just said. So I think, scanning the field prior so you know where to take your prep touch. And also, too, if you quickly can scan and you've trained that scanning ability, now you look up and you go, okay, that's off, that's on, that's off. And right away, you can decide where to take your prep touch. And then from there, the technique that you've been working on in isolation really comes to fruition.
Dude, I love the fact that you just brought that up. And Matt, obviously, we're going to see some clips of you later on and everything like that. But can, at the professional level, especially at the highest of levels, if you don't scan the field before you receive the ball, you're dead in the water, right?
Absolutely. I almost got picked off in the Trinidad game because of that. I got a ball coming in and I didn't realize most of the game was pretty low pressure for me, but I didn't realize that winger had released from my right side and I sort of opened up across my goal. And luckily, my touch was still close enough to me where I could get the ball past him to my other center back. But it's that scanning is everything, and it's something that I'm still working on and trying to get used to. And what I can see the picture, but what am I seeing? How can I in different picture scenarios and the way the field is I sort of see it as like an amoeba, like as it's moving, how can I break it down? How can I penetrate lines? And also knowing that I don't have to be the biggest playmaker. That's not really the strength of my game. I don't need to be a number 10 to advance the ball, but it is being asked of guys. And again, like I said before, I don't want to get left behind as a goalkeeper. So as long as I can keep adapting to these new, what coaches are looking for at the highest of high levels, hopefully that bodes well for me.
By the way, I'm going to petition Wise. Go ahead, Omar.
No, I think, I mean, for example, yesterday we were watching Chelsea versus Atletico Madrid, and probably like in the first 5 minutes, Mendy gets a pass back. Again, they probably should have cleared it, but the guy gets a pass back. There's a guy on top of the 18. He's on top of his 6, and by the time that ball gets to him, he takes a really, really bad touch, and the Atletico Madrid player takes it away from him. Luckily, it was a big touch and it went out of bounds. But if you rewatch the play, what you'll see is that he's receiving the ball, and as he's receiving it, he looks up to scan, and the ball hasn't come to him fully yet. And I think that's where young kids as well, when you watch those kind of clips, yeah, it's a mistake, but also to realize why, what led to that. And I think if you are receiving a pass back and you want to work on your prep touch, the way, in my opinion, it should go is scan prior. Then once you receive it, little things will change based off of what you saw a second or two earlier. But at the very least, you'll have an idea of where this prep touch needs to go because you've seen where the outlet opportunities are. And I think, again, I'm not saying anything about Mendy. He has great feet. But in that situation, he was scanning while receiving the ball. Try to scan prior so that when you receive the ball, now you can kind of go to those data points that you've accumulated because of that early scan.
Omar, do you have like assistants that like fly to Champions League matches and like set up GoPros near these spots? Or how do you have all this? Dude, Matt, it's insane. Like he'll just pull something out like that. And I'm like, when did you find the time? I know what you've been doing for the last day. It's all goal.
I told you, this is what I do. I tell you what I do. I watch games and then I see, okay, like, the goalkeeper just, for example, Mendy took a bad touch. Now I actually I wrote out my notes, then not yesterday, but like 6 minute. Then I go to the YouTube clip, I watch it, and then I save it in my notes. So now whenever I do work on prep touch and sessions, like we talked about, a few episodes back, is like, now I show the kids like, look, this is what I'm looking for. This is what you don't want to do. This is what you do want to do. So now even with 1v1s, we talked about yesterday, distance management, understanding the space you need to have to maintain, to actually, like Matt said, he drops off to his line to make reaction saves or to make those saves, because he's not going to come barging out like, Petr Cech or those guys who are like 6'6", 6'7", who are going to come out and command. He knows his strength. So same thing with this, is that understanding those clips, show them how to do it right, and then actually give them the context of Mendy has great feet. So this is an anomaly, but understanding that this is what it looks like if you kind of scan and receive the ball at the same time.
Yeah, one of the really good, interesting things about that, Matt, in regards to scanning the field, is it's always different. I think one of the things, especially when we're trying to teach younger kids how to scan the field, is that there's that delay. There's that delay of amount of time. And then based on the weight of the pass, a lot of times they're either behind the play or ahead of the play because they're not used to the timing and stuff. So is that something that, like at like the higher levels, for instance, that you work on? Like, like Rob Vartugian at NYCFC was showing us a video with Sean Johnson where like he was working on heavy passes back to him so that he had to react at different times and scan the field at different amounts of speed.
Yeah, I love Rob for. Yeah.
I think we're losing you.
Yeah, Matt, I think we're losing you. Can you hear us? Matt, can you hear us?
Yeah, I think he's frozen.
Yes. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. You're back.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah. You were just giving a shout out to Rob.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Great guy. I think for me, it's difficult sometimes because in New England, we're not always asked to, play out of the back. It's not really like our style of play right now, but I do understand that that's the way that the game is trending. So, I think my goalkeeper coach, he loves to hit balls in at me that are like horrible, nasty balls that have like the weirdest, toughest spins. And how can you touch and fix it? Like, how can you fix it? How can you solve the problem? So even if it's just calm the ball down to clear it forward, figuring out ways to do that. And at the same time, for me, the biggest challenge is the different style of play that I have to deal with here in New England. And then with the national team, where they're requiring you, okay, now you need to take that good touch and now you need to find the best pass to advance the ball and to start our attack. rather than just getting it safe from line. So that's been challenging for me, and something that I know that I need to like continue to work on. So
yeah, you know, and you know, it's good you got that. By the way, right now, Yuta Nomura from Revs 2, shout out to Yuta, just put in the comment section. He went, "Prep touch is everything. Read/anticipate 2 plays ahead. To get to that 2 plays ahead, your prep touch is so key/important."
Yeah, those are the things that I struggle to see. Like, okay, like if I can get the ball to somebody, but what does that mean, right? And instead of just getting it on my foot and getting it off my foot, how can I put my team in the best possible scenario and not stitch anybody up? And I think that's the other thing, right? Is sometimes just because your center back is open doesn't mean that for that moment, doesn't mean that that's the best pass. Sometimes it's better to just clear the lines, or sometimes it's better to look for your 6 to bounce it out, even if he's got a little more pressure than the center back, because teams are smart the way they press now. They know teams want to play, and they're going to bait things. So I think Utah's right, but it doesn't change the fact that sometimes it's very challenging to see 2 plays ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Omar.
No, I think also too, we talk about it all the time, Mike, just talking about how playing as a forward or playing in different positions gives you a better understanding of, you know, things that goalkeepers do that would you kind of like you pick their brain. And for example, I played some people who have really good feet, and sometimes I'll be chasing down the right back as a forward and I'm coming to them and they see me arcing my touch or my run. They take a big touch across their body, and then now what's impeding me is their actual bodies between me and the ball. So then I'm just thinking like, oh damn, okay, well as a goalkeeper now when I step in, that's actually a really good tactic to have, is making sure my prep touch is away. So now they actually have to curl their run, or they have to take a detour with their run. So then you talk about, you know, cutting at full speed, chasing someone down. That gives you 1 or 2 seconds of an extra window of a shot clock for you as a goalkeeper to find your next pass. So sometimes too, scanning is great, but that prep touch really gives you the best opportunity to now, what did I scan for before? These are the 4 options. 1, 2, and 3 are all gone. 4th one, boot it long. Okay, who am I going to hit it to their front foot? Am I going to have them chest it back towards me? And that, honestly, that prep touch is everything to allow that to all kind of, again, come to the forefront.
Dude, you know.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Matt. Add on to that.
I think another like good point of like that specific scenario is just because you execute your prep touch or just because you take a good touch doesn't mean that you can slow down the pace of the game, or doesn't mean that like you can relax once that touch is down. There's still a whole nother phase that needs to be executed properly. So I think, you know, yeah, you gave yourself that extra 1 second window, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have a full second to think or to change your mind of what you're doing. I think you still need to have known before, but you have maybe a half a second to execute it exactly on the money. But, you know, especially at this level, people are closing you down so quickly. And when you feel those, it's one thing doing it in training, but when you feel those footsteps, or you see that big purple blur of Daryl Dike coming in your peripheral vision, you're like, oh boy, I got to get this thing out of here now.
Dude, I swear, I don't know if I've ever faced Omar. Have you ever faced anybody as big as Daryl Dike? Like that guy, he literally looks like an Avenger. Like he's like a he's a superhuman. You're like, how can this guy still move the way he does? He's built like a bodybuilder. It's insane.
So Mike,
I kicked him. Cleared a ball, and I kicked him in the arm. It hurt my foot so much. And I kicked the ball like as hard as I could. And I can't believe his arm didn't break. I'm so serious, because he was coming full speed the opposite direction. I just kicked him in the arm, basically. I can't believe his arm didn't break. He's an Avenger.
Dude, go ahead, Omar.
You know, I think Matt also too, what?
No. I was just gonna say that I remember the first time I saw Daryl Dike was in college, and he hit a one-time finish near like probably like inside the 6, and you could literally just see the goalkeeper jumping out of the way. The dude's just like, I'm not even gonna try. Like, I'm not even gonna try. He's like, I'm probably gonna get thrown in. Like it's gonna be like a situation like when the Hulk like takes you out. Like you would just go flying through the net type of a thing. So anyway, go ahead, Omar. Say something important.
No. Again, to get us back on track, Mike. No, what Matt said there is that, yeah, just because, again, we talk about young kids listening to these podcasts and then, taking the information and running with it without listening to the full context, understanding. Yes, if you take a good prep touch and you evade the attacker, there's still another thing that needs to, be accounted for. It's that next layer of actually finding the right pass. And I don't know how many times my team was trying to build out of the back at Davis, and I would try to find someone down the middle. They're open, but a nice little dink, and I would dink it over, and my center backs are, let's say, even with the 6. So if I play that ball, even if it's a good situation or let's say a good pass in my opinion, now that player, if it's not a perfect pass, they're under pressure. And if, let's say, they don't get it, it's a bad pass, that first header goes to the striker that's on our 6, on the 18 pressuring, and now our whole team is having to defend, let's say, 10, 15 yards off the line. So again, sometimes the ball that seems open, you have to decipher in that moment, okay, what's going to happen here if I float this ball down the middle? Is my team in a position to actually step up and press? Or are they going to be in a really, like, the offside line is going to be so deep that this guy can easily chest the ball down on top of the 18, and now we're in an emergency mode? So again, like Matt said, just because your prep touch is good, you still have to figure out, okay, is that guy open because I want him to be open, or because the striker is showing me that they want that guy to be open and they're going to press him? And
Yep.
if that's the case, and the striker is going to close that guy down, you're not only thinking about your prep touch, the pass, you're also thinking about, where do I have to go next so that when they receive this ball, I'm an option and maybe I clear it first time. So again, there's so many different things, and I'm sure Matt can attest to this too. At that next level, you're playing against some of the smartest attackers who have an idea of, okay, I've seen the goalkeeper do this before. I'm going to bait you to do it. And even if I'm going to bait you to do it and you decide to do it, that's exactly what I wanted you. You know what I mean? Like, they have the 2 or 3 steps ahead.
I think that one of the biggest things that people get caught up doing or not doing is realizing that people watch you play, like you were saying with De Gea with his feet, like, people they know like that. Okay. Like, Daryl probably had seen on film that if I don't have a ton of pressure, I like to take a bigger touch out to my right, like almost always. And I love to play floater balls out to, the right side. So I think that that's a mistake that I had made in the past. Like, not thinking that people are like watching me play, you know what I mean? Like, these strikers at this level, they're doing their due diligence. I think that every successful player in MLS, for the most part, watches a ton of MLS, myself included. Like, I watch so many games and to get tendencies of players. And it would be silly to think that they're not, strikers aren't doing the same thing for goalkeepers. So I think that that's a great point.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the really good points that you just brought up there, Matt, as well too, in regards to everything good with the phone right there.
Yeah, all good. Sorry,
Okay.
I had my phone on Do Not Disturb, but Farrell was calling me.
Well, we're gonna have Farrell on
Mike.
tape soon. Go ahead, Omar.
Yeah.
No, Matt, I just wanted to just exactly what you just said. Again, we're on topic but off topic, but exactly what you just said is so important. I think kind of just like fell under the radar, is that at the next level, or even at the youth level, if you want to really understand how you can get better, it's going to take some guts, but you have to sit there and go, what is the scouting report going to say about me? What are they drawing up, and what are they trying to expose? And a lot of people, myself included, as a coach, sometimes when I'm, making sure that with your taxes, when you're auditing yourself, when you sit there and you audit yourself, you kind of have to be realistic of like, damn, realistically, I want that opportunity to coach at the next level, but is my left foot, like, is it respectable? Can I serve the ball in right foot and left footed to give my goalkeepers the best look? Damn, I can't. This sucks. I thought I was further along than this, but damn, okay, I got to go back to the drawing board so that when that opportunity does come, I'm ready for it. So Matt, just to ask you, like, do you do that very often in terms of your game footage? And have you kind of had to get to that point where you're just like, damn, I'm constantly trying to manage how critical I am, but also not shy away from being critical?
100%. And this is something that we were sort of talking about, and then we got into the prep touch. So I didn't really want to like just harp on it too much, but absolutely, like, I'm super self-critical, but in a way where I have a very good balance of it with my goalkeeper coach right now. And he has helped me. What we do in a weekly basis, if you came and watched training for a week, you wouldn't be like, wow, this is a super intricate drill. They're solving all these issues, this is really tactically based. We're just doing the work. You know what I mean? We're doing the work, and we're doing shot stopping drills. We're doing handling drills. We're just putting in work, hard work. And, he's more of like that old style of, can you succeed when you're tired? Can you, be clean and make the right decisions when you're tired? And with the relationship that we have now been able to, grow together is so much trust that I can tell him what I'm thinking. He can sort of talk me off that ledge and be like, it's not, let's look over the game film and we'll sort of talk about the situation. And he's like, oh no, it's good. It's good. And his psychological approach for me has been like a godsend. It really helped me find consistency. And, like I said, we're pretty much doing the same stuff all the time, but it's the conversations. It's his experiences of coaching at the top level in Europe, playing at the top level in Europe, and now being able to pull off his experiences and learn psychologically from him that have helped me to find my consistency. So I think it's just really interesting because I've always been kind of a nut about wanting to get better and getting really frustrated myself when it's not perfect. And he like establishing that trust has helped me to get much better by keeping me sort of on that even keel mental path.
You need the objective perspective sometimes. Yeah.
I mean, completely. But getting it back out on topic right here, Omar and Matt, I think, you just brought up the psychological aspect. And I think that's one of the biggest issues with the prep touch is the psychological. And you're talking about being tired, 90th minute, extra time. How are you going to handle that situation right there? If you're just working on the technical, but you're not put in those pressure training type situations where you've experienced that physically and mentally, then you're not going to be. And I think one of the things, Matt, honestly, one of the things that was really cool to watch has been, I don't want to just say this in a derogatory way, but your progression and your evolution as a goalkeeper from what Brad saw when he named you, the number one in New England, when you first, came over there to where you are now, because I think what we're talking about touch and everything like that, dude, if you watch like this past year, and obviously you and Andre came neck and neck for that Goalkeeper of the Year award, but your game from this standpoint went from another level from the year before, and I want to say that, from a positive way. And do you think a lot of that is because of that psychological training?
100%. The psychological training, like, as well, more so just the fact that in training itself, I was taking more risks. I was learning. I was trying to get better, and it comes with growing pains. Believe me, I actually have this video on my phone of like us playing out of the back and me sort of being out of position, somebody giving the ball away, me trying to like recover into the goal in training, and I went to dive, the guy like faked the shot, and I just tripped and like did a full-on somersault flip, and then they just literally walked into the goal. You know what I mean? Like there were so many trials and errors, and I understand what it's like to be the third string, when you feel like you're fighting for your life just for a contract. And now, like, being a number one, it's you feel a different approach mentally when you're like, okay, like a mistake isn't the end of the world. And when you're a third string trying to prove yourself, every mistake, I remember I used to take them home with me and be like, oh my God, my career's over after this year. But at the end of the day, and I know you guys can probably attest to this, coaches want to see you try. They want to see you put the things that you're working on into effect. If you're working on a prep touch in a certain scenario, and that scenario happens in the game, you take the right touch, but you don't execute the ball, you're going to be happy with the fact that they took the right touch. The idea was right. Let's just work on the execution. So I think like when you wake up and realize that the coaches want to see you try these things, whether it's successful or it fails, you'll start to see yourself improve marginally every day. And there's definitely some growing pains, but in the minds of the coaches, they'll think, hey, this guy's really trying to do what we want him to do. And he's getting better at it. Let's just keep working with him, and he's trending in the right direction. It's a long game. It's not just every day.
I do. I love hearing you say that as somebody who came in because you came in as a camp invite, right? You came in as a camp invite.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I mean, look, I was in that situation, and my issue was fear. I was feared every ball I dropped, every goal kick that was, that was mishit, everything like that was going to be the reason for them to say that I shouldn't be there. But I think I want a lot of young goalkeepers to hear this, is that even in that scenario, they want to see how you can handle that adversity at training, because they're going to make a determination on whether you can handle playing at that level based on whether you can handle dealing with the mistakes too, and whether you can overcome that and on all of that. And if no one's extremely perfect. Even the number one's not perfect, and I know, Omar, I know this is something that, we've talked about time and time and again. I mean, you even just brought up your left foot and your right foot and stuff like that. I mean, that just shows how deep it goes sometimes in our mentality of like where our strengths are, where our weaknesses are. And we need to let that go. I think a lot of young goalkeepers out there would be more successful in trial situations if they understood it and they saw it from the point of view of the coach rather than from their point of view of themselves.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think
No,
I'm with you. Mike, I think I'm with you. But I think again, like Matt says, I'm pretty sure if Matt takes I said sometimes, like when you look at like Google Maps, when you kind of like zoom out a little bit, then as he's probably got to this point, Matt, I won't speak for you, but maybe I'm tell me if I'm wrong, but I think you realize now, as you're not done with your journey, but on your journey now, you realize how important the patience aspect, the day-to-day is important, but the patience to let things prosper, we talk about planting the seed, but that seed that you planted, just being patient to see it come to fruition. And over time, you don't know when it's going to sprout, when it's going to come to terms for you, it's going to do well for you, but just because you laid the foundation down and it came across. So I think, myself included, at a young age, whether it was my diet, whether it was actually going to the gym, whatever it was, I didn't have the wherewithal, the mental awareness to be like, this is my plan, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to be patient until it's actually strong, or until it's actually done. And I think a lot of young kids, Mike, they are fearing a failure because of the lack of patience. They don't have the ability to see 5-6 steps ahead. And granted, you're in a tough situation, or you're battling for the number one. It can seem as though this is all the end all be all. If I make a mistake, the coach is going to be pissed. But like Matt said, the top coaches, the top goalkeeper coaches, just coaches in general, they put their arm around you and they will vouch for you. If the coach says, hey, what is Matt doing there? He says, no, hey, that's something we're working on. And you don't know how much that of confidence that gives the goalkeeper to go, okay, I'm just going to trust in this process, trust in what the goalkeeper coach is saying. And if your goalkeeper coach doesn't know what you're talking about, shit, then I really hope you stay away from the game. But most of us have the right intention for these kids. And if we can just not shelter them, but give them the ability to, hey, we've done this before. We know when you plant a seed, it'll grow. Stay with it. Stay the course. And we hear that all the time.
Yeah, I think that's something that my goalkeeper coach has made perfectly clear with me. If Bruce says something to me, or if the coach, he says, don't worry about that. He's like, I'll deal with that. You just focus on this, and he really separates that from the two aspects of it. And I think at the end of the day, even with my goalkeeper coach or with Bruce, that if I concede a goal, Bruce will, sort of mosey over on a Monday and say, so what do you think about that goal? And as long as I have like a thought process, not like I don't know. I don't know what happened. As long as I have a thought process or some sort of, he's like, oh, okay. Like, what do you think about this? And I think it's healthy to have those conversations and own up to your failures. And I've had plenty and I will continue to have plenty. They don't get any easier, but you learn how to deal with them better and better. And I think that that's important when you're talking about, playing from the back and getting things right. You see yesterday, like you talked about Omar, Mendy in the first 5 minutes of the game, he takes a loose touch and then he settles down and gets a clean sheet away at Atletico Madrid. And no one is worried about the fact that he almost conceded a goal because he took a sloppy touch in the first 5 minutes. And I think that you have to go through those moments. You have to go through those growing pains, and you have to be mentally strong enough, with your, find people that you can rely on. For me, it's some of my best friends from home. They're the guys that are like, they're like, dude, what happened? Like, dude, come on, and they make me laugh about it. And, cause they've seen me since high school, they're my best friends. They literally like dude, I didn't want to say anything, but that was pretty brutal, you know, things like that. And just things to remind you that, like, it's a game, you know, we're playing a game. Yes, goalkeepers, we have a ton of responsibility, but you have to be able to laugh at yourself as well sometimes. So, yeah,
For
I
sure.
think that's good advice.
By the way, was everybody hearing that the beeping that was coming through, like the Facebook group thing that was coming through? Or was that just on my end?
No.
I just want to know from
Probably
an
just
editing
you.
stand. Okay,
I
that was
didn't
just
hear
me.
anything.
Okay, because basically what happened is that somebody just put me on a group thread on Facebook, and it was just going off, and off, and I was like, okay, for the next 30 minutes, it's just going to keep going off. And I thought Matt was just being really nice. He's like, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to keep going and just not say
I would have
anything.
continued on. I would have continued on. I'm a true pro, but I didn't hear anything.
Speaking of pros, let's watch some of this film. Let's break this down. Let's see how critical Matt is of his game right here. So
not expecting this.
Yeah, so we're going Columbus, New England. Obviously not the result you wanted, but you had, but obviously really, really great season. Regardless, I want to show this because it's a great example of what you were talking about, Matt, here. And this is where I think what happens here, very simple. Hold on, I'm going to turn the audio off here. We're in the 23rd minute right here. I think it's a simple ball from Kessler is chased. So now, and here's the prep touch right there. Notice how you already scanned the field. You already kind of knew. Obviously, you know where Farrell is right there. And it's just a simple shield away. As that ball comes, you play it right there. You notice the chaser right there. And because of that, you communicate with Farrell to play it back to Kessler, who makes the run back across into the space right there. I think this is exactly what we're talking about right here. Right, Omar?
Yeah. I mean, again, too, it's not even about the fact that you play the ball. It's understanding what's the next pass, not even, or the next play, not even for yourself and where you need to go, but where you communicate that to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I think here I saw that Kessler play, and it's actually my sixth there, Polster. So knowing that he's in acre of space, and I'm looking at, when I'm looking here, I'm seeing where Pedro Santos is. I see that there's a bit of confusion about who's stepping. And so as Farrell's coming deeper, which if there's for some reason any center backs here, the run that Farrell makes is so important for the goalkeeper. If he doesn't run hard, then Pedro Santos can close him down, and now I'm going to have to look longer. But because he creates separation, I can see the triangle that's been made. So once that ball gets played, and I can't see who's over there on the right wing, which player of theirs, I think that's maybe Diaz. And so I know that Polster's got separation and we can get out that way. This is a really nice passage of play, actually, if I remember correctly. This actually ends up in a chance on goal.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why I chose it, because Omar has been disappointed with the choices of clips that I've been giving guests and stuff. So he's like, you got to go higher level, dude. Come on, you got Matt Turner. You got to go higher level right here. But dude, I love the way that you just broke that all down, because I think that's the kind of specificity that young goalkeepers kind of need to get from a pro like yourself, because they'll watch this on tape, and if they don't know the why, they'll just say, oh, this is a simple back pass, ball played out into space wide, and then a connecting ball right there. But Omar, how important is this?
Sorry.
No. Go ahead, Matt.
So for me, I saw all that space in the middle of the field immediately, and I wanted to just give the ball straight to Polster, but I didn't trust my technique to sort of shape it around the guy who was pressuring me. I bet an Ederson or maybe even Stefan could sort of shape that in there, and then he's forward. But for me, I needed a bouncer in order to get it there. But that if you asked me that a year ago, there's no shot. I mean, this comes from a ton of time equity in learning those shapes and the build up shapes and what to look for in defenses.
Yeah, dude. And when you were talking about, you're like, well, I mean, we don't play tiki taka like that in New England and stuff like that. That was pretty tiki taka right there from what I was seeing. That was pretty.
No, that's true. I'll give you that one.
But it's funny you said that in regards to, if you were a year ago, if you'd asked me to do that, and then also maybe if I was a Stefan or an Ederson or whatever, I would have tried to wrap that ball around. Dude, Matt, how important is that for you? You remember Omar was talking about being honest about your own capabilities. It's how important is it understanding in a situation to understand what you're capable of doing? And if it's not in your basket, if it's not in your wheelhouse yet, let's say, then don't go there, because it's probably not going to be a successful action.
There's a time and a place to take risks and things that you're not comfortable with, and that's on the training ground. And as you take more and more of those risks on the training ground, you'll start to see more on the actual field. But whatever you work on during the week in training, it doesn't matter when it comes to the game. All you need to do is make sure you win. All you need to do is make sure you keep the ball out of the net, and then the week of training starts again. And then you can start working on those things again. And until you feel perfectly comfortable bringing those things into a game scenario, don't do it. Don't even consider it. And I think that learning to play within yourself is a truly remarkable thing. Being on that page mentally with yourself and being self-aware is so important as a goalkeeper. Because now, so I also, like, not for nothing, but I've developed over the years, Farrell, he just called me. He's my best friend on the team. And we've developed this relationship where he knows how I'm going to play and I know how he's going to play. And he knows that I'm not really going to come out for a ball when you've seen him make some insane clearances, because he knows I'm not like really coming off my line maybe for a ball in the air, and that I'm going to hang back a little bit more. So overall, we have like a really great working relationship where we know and understand these things about each other. And I think my team, maybe last year, 2019, they might not have given me some of those passes because they would have been like, okay, he's not really comfortable with that. And I would tell them like, hey, if there's any pressure, I don't really want the ball. And I think having that self-awareness creates, that camaraderie. And then when you're like, hey, okay, I'm feeling good today. Like, if you want to give me that ball back, I'm ready for it. Announcing those things to your teammate creates like a confidence. And like I said, just being self-aware is so important.
Yeah. And I, when you were just talking about that right there, it was making me kind of think about the fact is that like how your team feels that you can play or where your strengths are is also going to manipulate the game too, because they're going to play you balls in certain places where they know that you're going to feel comfortable, so you have to recognize what they expect from you, and you need to know what what you expect from them. If you guys are on that same page, like you were talking about the relationship between you and Farrell, like, dude, like, and that's why trials, I think, are the hardest thing. I mean, Omar, I'm sure you can attest to this. That's why trials are one of the most difficult things for a goalkeeper in a scrimmage situations, because you don't know these guys at all.
It's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I've played with some guys too where I'm like, okay, they're pressuring us on the 18. I know for a fact if I play this ball to you, I'm either getting a one-touch pass back to me and I got to clear it, or it's going to go underneath your foot and you're going to panic under pressure. So again, as well as they know you got to know your teammates, and there's going to be situations where you're just like, all right, hey, Matt, better luck next time. I'm going to bypass you here. Just go ahead and get the second ball. All right, sounds good.
100%. 100%.
So I think, that's the reality sometimes of getting that prep touch. Like you said, if you look up and you see certain options, at the end of the day, it's like, I'd rather just clear the ball up, and then later on and training the next week or on film, be like, hey, I was going to get you here, but you had pressure. And then more often than not, people will be like, thank God you didn't put me under pressure, man. I would have hated you even more. Stuff like that.
That's a great point. That's a great point. I think that follow-up conversation is huge. And I think like having that candid like conversation, like, I saw you and I actively decided not to play you, they'll be like, as long as you saw me, I don't care.
Yeah. It is.
It's good that you brought that. No, go ahead, Omar.
No, Matt, I want to pick your brain here a little bit, but I actually posted, someone asked me, hey, like, what do you think is the next trend in a goalkeeper? Obviously we've seen a lot of different trends that come here and there, but in my opinion, I started thinking, I think the next level of, because we're using the goalkeeper so much nowadays, the next level for a goalkeeper is that thinking goalkeeper where you're almost having to, like, as an offensive coordinator, you're trying to read what the defense is going to, put together to face you. So the other team on goal kicks now are going to have like defensive coordinators to show, this is where the goalkeeper might pass the ball. This is what our shape's going to look like after they pass the ball. This is all the options this guy has. So in my opinion, I think the next level is those goalkeepers who can find balls in behind, spring into counterattacks, play the ball short, and almost have their own like offensive playbook of, when I play this ball to my right back, I'm going to get it one touch. And if I know what happens here, they're going to have their left back or their right back step forward, so I can swing it all the way across to that guy. So am I completely off, or do you think there's going to be a point where there's going to be set plays off goal kicks and the goalkeeper?
I'm concerned, Omar.
Goalkeeper's going to be the quarterback.
Omar, I'm really concerned that you're going to be involved in FIFA.
Yeah. No, I think that's definitely possible. I mean, I don't think it's far off of what we're seeing in some of these places already. So, yeah, I think it will be, but a lot of people like to have that like playing out be sort of a life of its own type thing, and who's gonna, listen, I bet people 20 years ago never thought the game would look like it's looking right now, or 30 years ago. So who knows? I mean, yeah, absolutely. I don't think it could be too far off, but I know for a fact already, if you're looking at how teams press, like I'll watch film of goal kicks from whoever they're playing the week before. So if, like, let's say we were playing Philly, because we played them 20 times this year, I would watch their game before and see, okay, did this team, if they had a goal kick, how did Philly line up? All right, they played it to their right center back. What opens up when that happens? Where does that pressure come from? So yeah, I think that's definitely already a huge piece of what's gonna go down.
And Matt, one last question I'm going to ask you. How often do you watch film on the other team and tell your goalkeepers, or excuse me, tell your field players and your attackers, DK, this is what's going to happen when they play that ball short. You're going to show pressure from here. So that guy, he's not strong with his left foot off one touch passes. Do you ever like break down the film for your own attackers and show them what you could potentially expose?
I don't. We do a ton of film, like as a team, where we'll talk about things in certain players. Me personally, I watched. Did you lose me there, or am I good?
You're good.
I had like a little thing. Yeah, I had like a little low power mode thing come up. Sorry.
All good.
Yeah, I watch film. I watch some film 2 nights before the game, usually set pieces, because we go over set pieces day before game. And then day before a game, I'll watch, like, it's all broken down, so I can watch like all their shots, all of their set pieces, all of the goal kicks. I can do that. I usually do that the night before the game, just so I'm not like, I'm thinking about soccer, but I'm not going crazy. It's sort of like really low key, but we do tons of film, like as a team. So yeah, I don't really talk to my teammates about it. It's more for me. And then in the moment in the game, if I see something happening the way that it was happening in the past or in their previous game, then I'll say something in the game. But I think like I know my players on the team pretty well. And like some of them are much better players when they're reactive rather than like overthinking a situation. Yeah. So I think that that's a huge piece for me, is understanding my teammates. And so like for Farrell, the guy's amazing athlete. He's so good when he's reactive. So just let him be. He actually studies a ton of film as well. But I don't want to let my opinion on something, deter the way he's going to approach a situation.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I'm glad you threw that in for in case Andrew's watching. He's like, hey man, come on, you make sure that people know that I'm watching a lot of film too, not just reacting. So.
Yeah, no, he's a film junkie. We'll be like, let's say we play a home game, like the night after the game, he'll be like, call me. Like, neither of us can sleep. Call me at like 1. He'll be like, dude, I was just watching the game, and and we sort of just talk about situation, and so it's pretty funny. He keeps bothering me on my phone. I think he wants to play Fortnite or something.
Oh man. I want to, by the way, Omar, remember how we talked about clear, concise, direct communication? You might want to use that for your explanation of the evolution of goalkeeping, because I have no idea what you're talking about.
No, pretty much what I was trying to say. Pretty much what I was trying to say, like, we're essentially going to be the quarterback. 3 minutes. No, we're going to be the quarterbacks, and we're going to be having like offensive schemes, and the defense is going to have their defensive schemes, and we're going to be the ones directing traffic out from there, out of the back.
Yeah, so Omar is going to be a new developer on FIFA. He'll be adding the Madden plays element to the goalkeeper.
We'll hire you as an offensive coordinator.
I know,
offensive coordinator. You're gonna have a clipboard. It's gonna be great. Let's watch one of these clips, Matt, because you were talking about the situation of like, sometimes when like it's not on and you letting your guys know, hey, it's not on right here. So is this Kessler again right here? Oh no, here, right here. So 5th minute right here.
That's Kess playing it. Yep, that's
playing it right back to you. So let's just do it in real time, real quick. Slowed the ball down. You recognize it. You said, hey, it's not on, and you go deep right there. Nice quality ball.
Probably could have. Probably could have waited a bit longer. But if you guys remember this game, in the first 5 minutes, I think Columbus had 5 corner kicks. So we were under a lot of pressure early. Probably could have, like I said, waited, attracted somebody, maybe played out, because I think we have a 5 versus 3. But I felt like our team was a little shell-shocked. Like, we kept getting beat down that right side. Hadn't really advanced the ball out of our half at all. And I decided that I was a little hectic here. I could have let Farrell and Kessler get up a little higher. But I felt like if I floated that ball out to my right back, or even I could have faked that long ball and played Farrell. I don't know. There's a ton of different things that could have come up there, but I'm trying to find my target striker there. I just hit the ball a little bit.
Hold up, but to play devil's advocate right here in regards to, you self-deprecating yourself right here, I think you wanted to just alleviate pressure because the fact that you had 3 corner kicks so quickly, you're like,
Yeah.
let's get it out of this area
100%.
because obviously we've been having trouble playing, so.
Yeah.
Omar, any thoughts?
No, I think, again, the way Matt kind of described that, if I'm just watching this clip 5 minutes in, I'm thinking there's an obvious pass right there. What are we doing? If I'm just like watching highlights, and now if I'm actually hearing the context as to, hey, there's 5 minutes, there's like a lot of deeper meaning and decisions that we make. So I think understanding that is very, very important, because I'm watching this, I'm like, why didn't he just play it short? And then hearing the context, I'm like, okay, that makes a lot of sense, and it's probably the right decision.
Dude, that's so important, because I think that's another really good thing for all the, for lack of a better term, Monday morning quarterbacks out there. Dude, and Matt, I'm sure you see it with all the comments and everything like that. It's like they don't know the why, they don't know the context. They're just seeing it at face value based on the final actions that they're seeing on the field. But they're not thinking of it from all the different cerebral aspects of it, that you just brought up right there.
Yeah, that's why I don't really care what people say. There's a very few people that I really care about their opinions. And I think that's something that I've been able to learn over the years is like, man, you don't know anything. Like, you don't know what until you're literally right there and somebody is running at you full speed and you're playing in an Eastern Conference final and you've just defended 4 corner kicks and your teammates are looking at you out of breath like, I don't want the ball. Until you know all that, your opinion really doesn't mean anything to me. There are people out there that understand the game, and yeah, maybe their analysis will be somewhat useful, but I see some stuff out. I've seen some stuff out there, particularly over this past year, where I'm like, oh my gosh, like, just save it, just save it. Like, you're being ridiculous. And not for nothing, when I was in college, I made a pretty bad mistake, and it was my first 45 minutes. My sophomore year, I played 45 minutes, and I ended up on ESPN's Not Top 10 #1 play. And jeez. I didn't play another minute the rest of the year until my junior year. But I got into this horrible habit of like watching the YouTube video of it and looking at the comments and seeing what people were saying, and then looking at like the Barstool video and looking at the Deadspin article and like reading what people had to say about me. And I was in a bad way for a while. Like, oh my gosh, like all this work that I've been putting in over the years for nothing. Like, I wanted to transfer. I wanted to like give up soccer. I was like, it's not that important. Like, I'll never be a pro. I started believing what these people were saying. And that's actually helped me grow, obviously I'm lucky that it happened then, not now. And I'm sure it can happen again, but it was a pretty tough moment for me, but also a great learning experience, is to not really care what, only care about a few people's opinions at a time, and you can't really you can't please everybody. So things happen and you just got to move on.
Yeah, and look, and Omar, I want to give you a shout out for this. Obviously, there's a lot of people out there in social media who are trying to prove how great they know the game and know goalkeeping and all that sort of thing. I love the way that you take it with your channels in regards to, like, if you're breaking down a clip of Matt, for instance, you're gonna look at the why, you're gonna look at the context, and then you're gonna want to start a discussion on what are the scenarios here, and what should people do in this situation, what did they do, what was successful, what was not successful, and use it as a learning tool rather than just like, here's why I know more about goalkeeping than so-and-so does,
But that's why I agreed to come on here, because I understood that from his perspective, like I've seen some of his posts on social media in particular, and it's never dealing in absolutes, right? It's never saying this was right and this was wrong. It was, what did you think? And it's a conversation rather. And that's what's helped me to become a better goalkeeper is conversation. is different perspectives, is not dealing in absolutes. This is the way, this isn't the way, because it's never the case.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. No, I think that's, if you would have seen my earlier work, my first channel, you probably would have been like, damn, this guy thinks he's full of it. But I think, again, you having those chats and those conversations with people who say, hey, it's dangerous to be, dealing in absolutes. Stop saying this is the only way. When you actually stop saying that, your mind opens up to different opinions and different ways to get the job done. And we talk about it with Mike and I. It's just like you're doing yourself a disservice and your goalkeepers a disservice if you're only teaching one way. And a lot of goalkeepers who are cookie cutter goalkeepers, and they know the proper technique. They make the save with the proper technique, but then you ask them to do something that's improvising, and they don't know how to do it because they've never been allowed to be curious or allowed to venture out of that cookie cutter portfolio per se. But yeah, so I think that's the right way. That's the right approach.
Yeah, well, after we praise Omar for another 10 minutes, we're gonna move on to this play. Totally kidding. I want to show. You
started that.
I know. Well, because I wanted people. Maybe there's people who are listening to this episode who maybe not be familiar with you, which is probably not true. But just in case there are, I want them to understand. I want to show kind of the culmination here. Here's the evolution of Matt Turner and everything like that, and. Dude, honestly, the great thing about this Trinidad game, which was really cool, and no disrespect to Trinidad and the team that they were able to put out there and everything like that, very respectable and all that is that it gave you guys the opportunity to really play and really work on a lot of the things that you've been trying to do in camp, during that January camp. And I really loved what I saw here, because this combination play right here, I think it's long, plays the ball into you, simple touch right there into space right here. Recovery, boom. And it's just all the movement of the ball there, man. It's just so awesome. And you just recognize it. I think a lot of this is just like you when working in rondos and things like that, just being in those experiences. And like right here, look, just, if you can kind of break down kind of what happens here. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's Vines playing a ball into me. First of all, what a touch. Like, he leaves me a really nice ball here where I can play it first time. And so I know I have pressure coming in from the left. I've already scanned and realized that I'm going to have a pressure coming on the right. So I'm only going to I don't have time for a touch. I'm going to have to play first time here, unless I because I can't take a touch to my left foot. The only way I could get through that is if I took a touch forward, but obviously Aaron's there. So if I can just keep the ball moving fast, because I know that the pressure came from Sam, I know I can lead Aaron and he can, now Sam is open. And I saw another guy coming over Aaron's left shoulder. He probably could have come out the other way as well. But I led him this way intentionally. But the pressure's high. That's 4 guys around Aaron. And I'm pretty sure there's another one riding up Sebastian Leggett here. So there's five guys in our half here.
Yeah, man. I mean, and look, I think, also one of the really good things that I wanted to show this clip too, is because we've been talking about securing your prep touch and you talking about first timing it right here, is that I want kids to hear it's not absolutes and don't take things literally. Like if you had taken a prep touch here, you're putting yourself in a disadvantageous situation because there was nowhere to create space for that second touch. You had to recognize your best option right here, which is, by the way, I mean, just cool, calm, and collective on Aaron Long right here to just be able to just handle that ball right there. Boom, boom.
He's good on the ball. He's really good on the ball, and that's another thing. I know that I want him on the ball. Like he is a guy that's confident to make the right pass next. So more so than I am. So let's just get the ball into him, give him a little bit of direction, and he knows also where space is. So get the ball to the feet of the people that can make the game go.
Dude, go ahead, Omar.
No, I just love what Matt said. And again, when he said he led him where he wanted him to go. Again, there are opportunities sometimes too when you get that prep touch and you play your outside back and you know for a fact that there's pressure coming at them on their front foot. So you play their back foot on purpose, and then quickly that gives you opportunity to go show underneath as well for maybe a pass back and clear. Mm-hmm. So understanding, like you said, leading them and playing the foot, that's going to be advantageous for them to either play a one touch to get out of pressure, or for them to turn is super important.
Yeah, and I want to bring this up right here too, Matt. One thing that you said that I really loved was there's no need for me to do that. Aaron Long's right there. I know what he's capable of. I want young goalkeepers to hear that you don't have to be the hero. You don't have to be the hero. I think a lot of times now they're seeing, especially, you know, guys at the higher levels, and they're watching them and they're saying, oh, I have to, so-and-so does this, so that's what I have to do right here. As opposed to recognizing the strengths of your team, recognizing the scenario, recognizing the time of the game, and then making a decision based on all of that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's something that I feel like has helped me to grow as a goalkeeper, is getting to know the people around me. You know, it's, you know, developing those relationships is something that I cherish, first of all, because you'll never, you know, when else in my, or what other career could I be in where I'm in a room with people from 10 different countries, you know, and just getting to learn everybody's backgrounds. And, you know, so really taking the time to genuinely understand someone as a person, and then getting to know them as a player as well is something that's really fun for me, and has helped me to grow as a goalkeeper.
Yeah, man. I think it's absolutely amazing. I mean, just this path that you've had and everything like that. And honestly, thank you for being so humble and honest too. You know, a lot of times, you know, sometimes, you know, we'll want to try to show very successful actions for somebody who comes on the show or whatever. And a lot of times, most often than not, they start picking apart their own game. And I'm like, oh, we were trying to show how awesome you are. And they're like, no. This is a learning podcast. I want to use this for myself to learn as well too, which I really, really appreciate. Obviously this past year has been difficult for a lot of young goalkeepers out there. They haven't had the chance to work with their team. So a lot of the topics that we've been doing, they're like, yeah, but I haven't played a game in like a year. Like, you know, so what kind of advice do you give like young goalkeepers, you know, who on their own, you know, can work on their prep touch and securing the ball and on all those sorts of things, so that once they get back into that situation, you know, that they can be ready to go?
Well, the first thing I'll say is, if you're below the age of 16 and you're working on small details of being a goalkeeper, you are way ahead of where I was when I was that age. So continue forth on that path. But no, but in all seriousness, I know it's been really challenging for me. You know, I had probably like a 2 or 3 month period where I was alone training. I couldn't see anybody. It was just literally me and my girlfriend. And she was rolling the ball to me. It's just being intentional with what you're doing. So don't just say, oh, well, I want to go to the field because this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to go to the field. Go to the field with something in mind. Today, I'm going to make my prep touch better. So you go and you find a wall and you start pinging the ball against the wall, and you just work on making sure that you can get that ball calm as fast as possible. And you keep doing that until your legs are too tired. And then you do it a little bit more. And then you go home. And then the next time you go to the field, you choose another thing, or to the wall, or to hitting it off the bench, or hitting off the base of your couch. Sorry, parents. Things like that. I did a whole entire session one day. It was raining outside. I just had this itch. I needed to touch the ball. I used the base of my couches. I set them up in like a little square, because each piece is individual, up against the walls. And I was just passing, receive, touch off a different part of the couch. So like just little things like that. You need to get creative, and most of all, just have fun with it. I think the biggest thing for me, the reason I wanted to be a goalkeeper, was because I thought it was fun. I still do. I have fun every single time I step out on the field. And that's something that's super special. Not everybody gets to be able to say that what they do is something that they really enjoy. So never take it for granted. Accept the responsibility of who you are as a goalkeeper, and just get out there and grind, because it's a chase for perfection, and none of us are perfect. So it's an endless chase, which is just so addicting and fun.
Well, I'm glad it's worked out better for you than it did for me. I spent 2 weeks with the Revs back in the O's, back in the O day. Yeah, in the 2000s days. And by the 2 weeks there, I think it was a favor to somebody that I was brought into that training. Boy, I learned really quickly that I was not ready for that speed of play in any way. I did get a T-shirt, some shorts, and a jacket on my way out the door, because you got to get swag before you leave a trial. That's what you do, right? You go into the equipment.
The gear is the most important part.
Omar, anything you want to add before we start wrapping this up? And Matt, thanks honestly for taking close to an hour and a half, man. I know we had some Wi-Fi issues at the front, so I wanted to make sure we had a lot of time, you know. So
all good, yeah.
No, I think Matt summarized everything right on point. I think if anybody, listen to this podcast, jump off and go watch Matt's highlights and just go watch the evolution of his game. And I've DM'd Matt before, and I've posted some stuff on you before, man. And I think your game is so unique, and I feel like you know what's best for you, and you do what's best for you to the highest ability. And I think that, again, is the uniqueness of every goalkeeper needs to be something that we discuss, especially here in the States as well, where we've seen in the past a lot of cookie cutters, and the ones who race to the top are the ones like Tim Howard, for example, who's super athletic, but he was able to manage his athleticism to make it where the technique and the athleticism really work off each other. And I feel like for you, man, again, just the strength, you have such good balance. And I think the balance for you allows you to get into a lot of good situations. Yeah. 1v1s, for example, probably one of the best goalkeepers that I've seen with 1v1s, because again, you know your body, you know your strengths. And again, at the same time, like you said, you know your weaknesses, and you know what you need to take care of in sessions, and you communicate that with your goalkeeper coach. So if you're listening, guys, the trajectory of, going to the next level, playing for the national team isn't very linear. It's one of those roller coaster rides. And I think Matt's career is one of those ones where if you just stay the course, stay on that roller coaster, even on the way down, there's going to be a lot of fun on the way up.
That's right. Thank you. Thanks for the kind words, and bringing up Tim Howard. That's a true New Jersey legend. So hopefully someday be in that same conversation.
Oh no, I mean, I know, man. I mean, there's Tim, there's Tony. Obviously, even in the coaching ranks, you got Mulch and Blodgett. I mean, there's just so much New Jersey connections. I mean, tons of guys in MLS, tons of guys in USL. So you're in really good company right there, Matt. If people out there, they want to kind of follow this journey of yours, where's the best social media for them to follow you?
Instagram for sure. It's at Head Turner, 2 D's and 2 R's at the end. And if you have any questions, slide on into the DMs. Sometimes I'm pretty responsive in there. So, for the most part. So let me know. I love to have conversations about this stuff, even if it's just, hey, what's up? How you doing? And I look forward to hearing from some peeps.
Yeah, guys. So send some of those DMs you've been sending to Pro GK Academy over to Matt Turner so that Omar can rest a little bit. His thumbs get tired from answering all those DMs from people. They're asking Omar, how do you become a pro? And you go, I don't know, man. Why don't you ask a pro? Why don't you do that? Yeah. So, this is the best way. Obviously, guys, you can follow Omar at ProGK Academy _ on Instagram. Contact at Inside the 18. That's the number 18media.com. If you have a guest suggestion or a topic suggestion, at Goalkeeper Podcast on all social media platforms. If you want to follow Mike, again, guys, comedy. Okay. This is at Michael Magid is for comedy. It's not goalkeeping stuff. If you DM me for goalkeeping stuff there, I'm going to be confused because I'm not going to see it. Just send that to Goalkeeper Podcast. That way Omar can respond too. He knows more than I do. That's all the time on Inside the 18, and we are out. Later, guys.